Hey Absolites! Last week, I remade a video from 2020 where I designed a custom Pokemon gym. A few months after that original video, I made a sequel looking at if I were a Pokemon champion, and I designed a custom Elite Four to go along with it. Today, we're remaking that video as well. Let's go. To start with, we should figure out what the theme for the Elite Four should be, since most E4s do have themes. I love mythology, so I think a theme that would make sense for my league would be world mythologies. One person Greco-Roman, one person Norse, one person Chinese, and one person Egyptian. Then, when you get to the champion, you'll have someone themed around all mythologies. First is the Chinese Elite Four member, Hu Yi. All of Hu Yi's Pokemon are based on creatures from Chinese folklore and mythology. First of all, you know I had to put it somewhere, inspired by the Baizai, Absol. After warning the rest of his team to the danger you pose, Absol goes down, and that leads to Altaria, who's based on the Pang and can fly almost 1,000 miles in one flap of its wings. Third, the Monkey King, the entire reason I chose to make one of these Elite Four members Chinese mythology, Infernape. Fourth, based on the Zhulong, with the body of a Chinese dragon but the face of an old man, Drampa. Then finally, his ace. Having jumped up a river as a carp and evolved into a massive dragon, we have Mega Gyarados. When you defeat Hu Yi, you fall down a pit onto a boat which floats you down a river of lava and leads you to the next Elite Four member, Oseer. Oseer is all about Egyptian mythology, and he uses Pokemon to reflect that. First, seeming to have an appearance similar to Egyptians, we have Weavile. Second, based loosely on the sun god Ra and the war god Horus, we have Blaziken. Third, we have Sigilyph, which seems to be based on hieroglyphs. Fourth, arising straight from an actual coffin, we have Cofagrigus. Then, finally, at the end, we have his ace, guiding souls through the underworld and performing their funeral rites. We have Mega Lucario, inspired by Anubis. With Oseer defeated, you jump onto a new boat, the Ship of Nails, Naglfar. On that boat, you meet and fight the third Elite Four member, Hildur. Hildur's whole team is based around Norse mythology, and yes, I was completely grasping at straws for this one. Bringing down the Hammer Mjolnir, we have Electivire, who represents Thor. Next is Thor's blood uncle, yes, Marvel lied to you, they're not brothers, Loki, represented by the trickster Zoroark. Third, flying down to defend Valhalla at the end of time, is Togekiss, the Valkyrie. Fourth, we have Dusk Lycanroc, a child of Loki who bit off Tyr's hand, Fenrir. Finally, we have our ace, the old, wise Allfather, blood brother to Loki, Mega Alakazam! When your fight is finished, Naglfar docks, and you climb Mount Olympus to the final Elite Four member, June. June uses Pokemon with a connection to Greek mythology. First is Rapidash, who carries the chariot of the sun throughout the day. Next is Tauros, who rides across the sky at night in the stars. Third is Aegislash, whose name literally contains the shield Zeus and Athena wield. Fourth, slain by the mighty Heracles, with 3 heads that grow back when you slay them, you have the mighty Hydra itself, Hydreigon. And finally, her ace, Houndoom, who guards the gates to the underworld. But you manage to defeat them, and when you do, you meet me, the champion of this region, specializing in all forms of mythology. My first Pokemon out is Frostlass, inspired by the Yuki-Onna yokai of Japanese folklore. Frostlass will start by setting up spikes to cripple your team. Then, she'll use Thunderwave to make sure you can't outspeed us. With that done, she'll use Ice Beam and Shadow Ball to do as much damage to you as possible before she goes down. And just in case you try to exploit a weakness, she has a Focus Sash to guarantee she stays alive for at least a turn. But Frostlass is just a pawn, and pawns are on the battlefield to die. Once she's down, I send out my nine-tailed fox from general East Asian folklore, Ninetails. Ninetails will start by setting up Nasty Plot, hoping to sweep for as long as possible. Then to do damage, it has Flamethrower for stab, Energy Ball to deal with anything it's weak to, and Scorching Sands for some extra coverage. And to make sure that it'll do as much damage as possible, it also has a Life Orb to enhance the damage output. But Ninetails can't last, and it isn't built to. Ninetails burns bright, but the candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And so, Ninetails will go down, clearing the way for Mythology, who's inspired in part by Venus, the goddess of beauty. Mythology has the moveset of Scald for solid stab, Ice Beam for coverage, Recover in case you can do too much damage, and Mudshot to deal with electric types. And since Mythology is so bulky, there's really only one item worth having on it: Leftovers, to make sure that you will not have an easy time beating this thing. Mythology is a total tank, and this moveset serves only to aid in that. But despite that, you will almost certainly defeat Mythology. I'll congratulate you on getting this far into the team, and then I'll send out my next Pokemon, having completed 12 labors and being loosely inspired by an Egyptian scarab. It's time for Heracross. There's no beating around the bush with this guy. Close Combat and Mega Horn for heavy-hitting stab. Throat Chop for dealing with ghost types as a more consistent option for psychic types. Facade, to take advantage of its Guts ability, which is set up with the Flame Orb it holds. This thing will die fast, but it's sure to take some of your Pokemon down with it. By this point, you're 2/3 of the way into my team. I only have 2 Pokemon left. The first is inspired by the god of death himself, Osiris, and can rise again when you defeat it. My penultimate Pokemon is one I designed myself, Osiris, the Electric Phoenix Pokemon. Yes, I am using a Pokemon that I designed on this team. This is my team, I can do what I want. While I didn't create stats for Osiris when I first designed it, I think it's pretty safe to say it would be a speedy special attacker, so I'll give it a moveset based on that. First is Thunderbolt for stab. Then, Heatwave and Earth Power for coverage. Finally, its signature move, Revival Wing. This move is flying when in its living form, and ghost when in its revived form, so it's always stab. It also does recoil when it's flying, to get Osiris closer to its much more powerful revived form. All these moves are great, and they're just added to by the choice specs it holds. Also, since the revival ability has never existed before, we'll say that it resets the choice item because it's like it switches out. Finally, we get to my ace. If you paid close attention to my design, you'll see that I don't have a keystone. This is why. Inspired by the Norse Midgard serpent and reminiscent of the Egyptian Apophis, my ace is the legendary Zygarde. Zygarde has the moveset of Dragon Dance to set up, 1000 Arrows and Outrage for stab, and a Rock Slide to deal with ice types. It doesn't have a held item because I'm not that cruel, but it's certainly plenty strong. I'm honestly not sure how you'd beat this thing without a full competitive squad, but good luck. Despite all of this though, you beat me. You are now the Pokemon League champion. So now it's time for you to start your journey over by looking at what I'd be like as the first Pokemon gym leader. Have fun!